If you're ready for a tale of secrets, pain, and a twist you won't see coming, stick with me. Imagine losing the love of your life, only to find out your own child may owe you nothing but betrayal. What would you do if the person you raised drove you to a lonely road and said, "This is where you get off"? If you like this story, please like and drop a comment, and not to subscribe to the YouTube channel for more revenge story like this. Meet Linda Mason. She lived a quiet life in Greenfield Heights for 50 years. She loved her husband, Carl, and raised their son Jack on her own after Carl got sick. Now that Carl is gone, Linda thinks her heart can never heal. The chapel was small and white. Sunlight spilled through the stained glass windows, painting the wooden pews in soft blues and reds. Linda stood at the front, her hands folded in front of her, staring at the flower-covered casket. Her black dress felt heavy on her shoulders, but the grief felt heavier. Around her, friends and neighbors whispered kind words. None of it helped. After the service, Jack came forward. He was 25, lean, with dark hair just like his father's. He hugged her hard. Linda wanted to lean on him. She wanted his arms to hold all the pain for both of them, but he let go too soon. They walked out to the old red Ford pickup. Jack climbed in first and waved her around. The engine rumbled to life. The day was bright and warm, but Linda's world felt cold inside. Carl had loved sunny days. He said the sun was a gift from God. Now the gift burned in her eyes. Jack drove in silence. The road wound through row after row of cornfields. Linda kept looking back, hoping to see Carl walking beside them, smiling. But there was only asphalt and golden stalks swaying in the breeze. They passed old barns with chipped paint. They passed a broken-down farm with a tilted silo. Linda remembered taking Jack to that farm when he was little. They fed the goats and chased chickens. She smiled at the memory, and then the smile slipped away. Jack turned onto a narrower road. The fields fell away. Trees arched overhead, making a tunnel of green. The sun peeked through leaves, casting dancing shadows. The gravel road scratched under the tires. Linda looked up at the sky. It should have been bright and carefree, but her chest felt tight. "This way," Jack said softly. He turned left at a faded wooden sign that read Creekside Lane. The road got worse. Potholes filled with muddy water. Branches brushed the sides of the truck. Linda's heart beat faster. "Are we going home?" she asked. Jack didn't look at her. He kept his eyes on the narrow path. Almost. They reached a fork where two skinny roads met. Jack chose the one that vanished into thick woods. The trees closed in. The truck's headlights glowed, even in daylight. Linda's palms got sweaty. Jack parked. The engine clicked off. Only the bird songs and the rustle of leaves filled the air. Linda sat very still, waiting. Jack unbuckled his seatbelt. He climbed out and walked around to her side. Linda's legs shook when she stepped out. The ground was soft and damp. She looked at Jack. "Mom," he said, his voice calm as a lake on a windless day. "This is where you get off." Linda's heart froze. She stared at the dark trees, the muddy road, and her son's pale face. She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came. Then Jack turned and walked away, his steps quiet on the mud. Linda stood alone, the woods around her growing darker with every heartbeat, and that was when she realized nothing would ever be the same again. Linda stood there, her dress soaked at the hem and her heart pounding like a drum. The woods around her whispered with wind in the leaves. Her son's footsteps had already vanished. For a moment, she was frozen, as though the world itself held its breath. Then the cold bit at her skin, and she knew she had to move. She stepped forward, each foot heavy in the mud, leaving deep prints behind. The road ahead was just a narrow track between trees. No streetlights, no houses, only tall oaks and pines. Linda fumbled in her purse for her phone. When it lit up, there was no signal. She tapped again. Nothing. A slow tremor of panic crept up her spine. She tried to call Jack, but the call wouldn't go through. She tried her best to stay calm. She whispered to herself, "It's okay, Linda. Just find a way home." She began walking, and every crack of a twig made her jump. Sunlight filtered through branches, but faded fast as the canopy thickened. She looked back, hoping for the road that led out. But all she saw were trees. The air smelled like damp earth and moss. After 10 minutes that felt like hours, she saw it, an old wooden sign nailed to a tree. Pine Hollow Farm. The paint was peeling. Beneath it was a rusty arrow pointing deeper into the woods. She didn't know if it meant help or more trouble, but staying where she was felt worse. Following the arrow, she crept along until she found a clearing. There stood a small cabin with a sagging porch. The windows were grimy, and one shutter hung by a single hinge. Linda's heart pounded, but she needed shelter, even if it was a stranger's place. She lifted her hand and rapped on the door. No answer. It creaked open with a groan. Inside, the air was musty, but the floor was dry. A single wooden chair sat in the center. Sunlight slanted through a crack in the roof, making dust motes dance. Linda set her purse on a dusty table and sat. She closed her eyes, pressed her head to her hands, and let tears fall. How could Jack do this? What had she done wrong? Her mind flashed back to Carl's funeral. The pitying looks, the whispered rumors that her husband left debts behind. Had Jack believed those rumors? Had he blamed her? She wiped her tears and pressed a hand to her side. Her dress was torn on a branch, and her skin was scratched. Blood welled at a cut near her elbow. She tore a strip from her sleeve to wrap it. Even pain was a relief, a sign she was still alive. Time passed, though she couldn't tell how much. The cabin was empty, with only a battered stove and a broken rocking chair by the hearth. Linda found an old newspaper on the floor. The date was 3 years ago. Nothing helpful. She crushed it and tossed it aside. In the corner, she noticed a crate of canned beans and a dusty lantern. She managed to light the lantern with trembling fingers. The warm glow chased away some of the dread. She opened a can, ate a few beans, and felt her strength return bit by bit. She thought of Jack again, his voice so calm, telling her to get off. It echoed in her mind like a cruel lullaby. "This is where you get off," he said. He made it sound like a simple bus stop. Instead, he'd left her stranded in the middle of nowhere. As evening fell, the woods grew darker. Linda realized she could not stay here all night. She needed to find a road or a house. She packed her purse and climbed back out onto the porch. The lantern light showed footprints in the mud leading away from the cabin. They were fresh, probably Jack's, though why he had come here first, she didn't know. She followed them slowly, her heart in her throat. The footprints led back into deeper woods. Branches scratched her arms and face as she pushed through. Every shadow looked like someone watching. She forced herself to keep going. After what felt like an eternity, she saw a faint glow ahead. It was a small lamp outside a house, warm light in the darkness. Relieved, she hurried forward, calling out, "Hello? Please help me." No answer. She reached the porch and knocked. The door swung open before her knuckles hit the wood. Inside, a man stood, tall, with pale skin and hollow eyes. He was thin, dressed in a graying suit, like he had stepped out of another century. Behind him, the house stretched into gloom. "Mom." The voice was soft and familiar. Linda froze. She stared at the man's face, and her blood ran cold. It wasn't Jack, but it looked like him. Pale, dark hair, the same narrow jaw. "Jack!" she whispered, disbelief and hope warring in her chest. The man smiled, but it was the wrong smile, too sharp, too knowing. He raised a single finger to his lips. "Shoo," he said. "You weren't supposed to find me so fast." The door slammed shut behind her. The lamp went out. Linda stood in total darkness, heart racing. And that was when she knew the real nightmare was just beginning. Linda's heart pounded in the dark. She pressed her back against the door, but it would not budge. Her palms were wet with sweat. She reached into her purse for the small flashlight Carl had given her on their first anniversary. With trembling fingers, she clicked it on. A narrow beam of light cut through the blackness. She shone it on the floor. The boards were old and warped. Dust lay thick in the corners. She searched for a key or anything that might help. Nothing. "Jack!" she called, her voice small and shaky. "Please, Jack, don't scare me." Only silence answered. The air felt heavy, as though the house itself breathed. She took a deep breath and turned the handle again. Still locked. She slipped to the floor and pressed her ear to the door. Footsteps outside, soft, slow, deliberate. Someone was pacing in the hallway beyond. Her chest tightened. She crawled to the crack under the door and slipped her phone through. It landed face up. The screen glowed, one bar of signal. She tapped the phone app. No calls, no messages. She sighed, relieved that at least the phone worked. She tapped call home and waited. Ringing. A click. Then a different voice. "Hello." Linda's heart soared. "Jack. Thank God. I'm at." The voice cut her off. "You shouldn't have followed him, Mom." Her blood ran cold. Jack's voice, but lower and slower. It wasn't her real son. "Who is this?" she whispered. The line went dead. Linda's breath came quick. She tried again, but no answer. The screen blinked to no service. The one bar vanished. She pressed herself against the door, every muscle tense. Then she heard a soft thud behind her, something heavy against the wall. She spun around and saw a tall wardrobe. It had not been there before. 2 carved doors, dark wood. She shone her light on it. Her reflection stared back, pale, scared. She swallowed hard and edged toward the wardrobe, hoping it would hide her from whoever waited outside. She opened one door. Inside hung old coats, dusty and moth-eaten. She slipped behind them, crouched low. Her flashlight beam wavered. The wardrobe smelled of cedar and rot. Outside, the footsteps drew closer. Linda held her breath. The door creaked. She heard the lock turn. Then silence. A moment later, she heard the wardrobe door open. The breathing came slow and deep. Linda pressed her back into the coats. The breath was so loud she could feel it. Then the footsteps receded. Door clicked shut. Lock turned. Linda waited. The house was still. She peeked from behind the coats. The floor in front of the wardrobe was empty. Tears stung her eyes. She crawled out, shaking. She had to find a way out. She crept toward the stairs. A faded runner carpet led up to a landing. Moonlight shone through a broken window at the top, outlining dust motes. She climbed quietly, each step making a soft creak. At the landing, she found a hallway with 3 doors. One stood open a crack, showing a dark room beyond. Another was closed. The third had a padlock. She chose the open one. Inside was a child's room. A small bed, a broken doll on the floor. A rocking horse stood in the corner, its paint chipped. She felt a wave of pity. A child once lived here. Had they been as scared as she was now? She moved to the window. It was cracked but not locked. She pushed, and the pane slipped down. A rush of cold night air filled the room. She could taste pine and earth. Below, the yard lay in shadow. Tall grass hid the ground. She would have to jump. 20 feet down, a long fall, but better than staying trapped. As she climbed onto the sill, she heard a voice behind her. Soft, almost a whisper. "Don't go." She spun. There, in the doorway, stood the man who looked like Jack. His pale eyes gleamed in the dark. Linda froze. Her heart stopped. He smiled. "You can't leave yet." She shook her head. "You're not Jack." His smile widened. He stepped forward. The room grew colder. Linda backed toward the window. She didn't want to fight, but fear lent her strength. She kicked out, catching his shin. He stumbled, surprised. She darted past him and dropped through the window. She hit the ground hard, pain shooting up her leg. She managed not to scream. She rolled and fell into the tall grass. The phone flashlight lay scattered around her. She crawled to it and clicked it on again. 1 bar. Enough. She dialed 911. Her voice shook. Please, I'm at the old house on Pine Hollow Farm. My name is Linda Mason. My son left me here. Please help. She hid behind a low stone wall and waited. The grass swayed around her. The house loomed silent. Behind her, something moved. She spun the light around, but saw only shadows. Sirens sounded far away. Relief mixed with dread. She turned back toward the house, shining the light on the dark window. The man was gone. Then she heard a child's laugh, echoing from inside the house. A clear, happy sound that did not belong in that empty place. Linda's blood ran cold. She stood very still. The laughter came again, closer. Mommy! She whirled around, but there was no one. The sirens grew louder. She ran toward the road, limping, tears in her eyes. As she reached the edge of the woods, red and blue lights flickered against the trees. A patrol car and an ambulance rolled up. Someone grabbed her arms. Ms. Mason? Are you okay? She nodded, unable to speak. They wrapped her in a blanket and helped her into the ambulance. As the doors closed, she looked back. The house sat in the dark, windows like empty eyes. No sign of her son. No sign of the pale man. Then, in the upstairs window, a face watched her, pale, dark-haired, smiling. And then it vanished. The ambulance bumped over the rutted road, its siren a steady wail that seemed to reach deep into Linda's chest. She lay on a stretcher, wrapped in a thin blanket. Her leg throbbed with pain. Every bump made her gasp. Through the window, she saw the dark woods slip by. The last thing she remembered was the pale man's face in the upstairs window, watching her, smiling as if he knew a secret she did not. Then he vanished. Inside the ambulance, a kind paramedic named Sarah checked her bandages and spoke softly. You're safe now, ma'am. We're almost at the hospital. Linda nodded, even though her head felt wobbly. She closed her eyes for a moment and tried to think of Carl's face. His gentle smile always made her feel better. She pictured him, standing in their garden, hands in his pockets, looking at her with love. That memory was like a warm light in the dark. Soon the ambulance doors opened into the bright lights of Greenfield Heights General Hospital. Nurses wheeled her into an emergency room, where they took her to a bed and lifted her leg onto a pillow. The pain eased a little when the nurse gave her a small pill. Linda swallowed it dry, her throat sore. Then the nurse wrapped her leg in a thick brace. Detective Tom Allen came in. He was a tall man with gray at his temples and kind eyes behind wire glasses. He wore a badge on his belt. Mrs. Mason, he asked. Her heart felt tight when she heard his voice. I'm Detective Allen. I'm sorry this happened to you. I want to help you. Thank you, Linda whispered. Her voice was small. She tried to sit up, but the brace held her legs still. The detective pulled a chair beside her bed. Do you remember everything that happened tonight? He asked gently. Linda thought of the cabin, the strange man, the laughter in the dark. She swallowed. My son, he dropped me off on that road. Then I found a cabin. He never came back. In the house on Pine Hollow Farm, I found a man who looked like Jack. He locked me up. I got out through the window. The detective nodded, taking notes. We found no sign of forced entry at the farmhouse, he said. No broken locks, no footprints besides yours. The place is empty now. Linda's eyes widened. Empty? But the man. We may have missed him, the detective said, or he left long before we got there. We will search again. And your son, his voice trailed off. My son. She pressed her hand to her chest. Where is Jack? He's missing, Detective Allen said softly. His truck was found back at the main road. The windows were down, his phone inside, but no Jack. Tears filled Linda's eyes. No, it can't be. He wouldn't do this to me. She shook her head. It was him. I heard him. I saw him. The detective laid a hand on her arm. "I believe you, Mrs. Mason. But right now we need to find Jack and whoever that man was." They called her daughter-in-law, Lisa, who lived nearby. Lisa arrived, her face pale and drawn. She hugged Linda and cried quietly. "Mom," she whispered, "we'll find him. We'll find Jack." The next morning, Linda was moved to a private room. Her leg was still very sore, but the nurse said she would walk on crutches soon. Lisa sat by her bed and held her hand. Detective Allen stopped by again with a police report. He said they were treating Jack as a missing person and the farmhouse as a possible crime scene. While they spoke, Linda thought of Carl, lying in the casket the day before. How she had stood at his funeral, broken, and had believed the worst was over. Instead, her world had cracked again, deeper this time. She squeezed Lisa's hand, trying to stay calm for her. Later that day, Linda's doctor, Dr. Patel, came in to check her leg. He was gentle and spoke in a calm voice. "Your leg is healing well," he said. "I will remove the brace tomorrow, and you can stand with crutches. Try to rest as much as you can." "Thank you," Linda said. "I want to find my son." Dr. Patel paused. "I know this is hard," he said, "but you need to heal first. Let Detective Allen and the police do their work." Outside the room, the hospital was quiet. Sunlight shone through tall windows. Linda watched dust motes dance in the rays. She thought about the strange man in the dark room. He had the same features as Jack, but his eyes were empty. He had called her Mom, but it was not her son's voice. He had smiled as if he owned her fear. That night, Linda could not sleep. Lisa had gone home to pack clothes and bring more items for her mom. The ward was silent except for the occasional beep of machines. Linda lay in bed, staring at the pale green walls. She closed her eyes, but the image of that pale face came back, like a ghost in a lullaby. She sat up, careful of her leg, and reached for the small Bible that Carl had given her years ago. She thumbed through its pages until she found the Psalms. Her fingers settled on Psalm 23. "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." She closed her eyes and whispered the words. They calmed her, soothed the jitter in her chest. Carl had loved that psalm. He had read it at their wedding. Linda felt his presence beside her, strong and steady. She squeezed the Bible and lay back down. She prayed for Jack, for Detective Allen, for whoever had taken her son or trapped her in that farmhouse. She prayed for the pale man, that his heart might be found and turned away from darkness. Then she drifted into a restless sleep. In her dreams, she walked down that mud road again, the headlights of the truck cutting through the trees. Jack sat beside her, silent and watchful. The pale man sat in the back seat, his eyes like ice. She reached for Jack's hand, but her arm stretched in slow motion, and she could never touch him. The truck stopped. The pale man leaned forward and whispered, "You know the secret." Linda woke with a start. Her heart raced. She looked around the room. The lights were dim. The nurse's station was dark. She exhaled. It was only a dream. Early the next morning, Detective Allen came with news. They had found Jack's truck abandoned at the road's edge, but now they found tire tracks leading off an old logging path. They were investigating. Linda's hope sparked. She wanted to go, wanted to stand on the road and call her son's name, but her leg still hurt too much. That afternoon, Lisa brought her lunch, sandwich and apple slices, and sat with her. They talked quietly about Jack's friends and the places he liked to go. Linda tried not to cry. She pictured Jack's grin when he found a new fishing spot or his laughter when she teased him about spilling pancake batter. She held on to those memories. Just as the sun was setting, Detective Allen returned with more news. He said they had talked to a man who lived near the logging path. He had seen a dark figure dragging something toward an old hunting cabin. They were planning to search it at first light. Linda's heart pounded. "Please," she whispered, "find him. Bring him home." The detective nodded. "We will, Mrs. Mason." That evening, Linda felt a flicker of courage. She pressed the nurse's call button. When the nurse arrived, Linda asked if she could stand. The nurse helped her onto crutches and walked her slowly down the hall toward the hospital chapel. Inside, the chapel was empty and peaceful. Candles flickered on a small altar. Linda leaned on her crutches and knelt on the cushioned kneeler. She closed her eyes and prayed for Jack's safety. She prayed for the stranger who had hurt her. She prayed for strength to face whatever came next. When she stood to leave, a cold breeze brushed her cheek. She turned, no open windows, no doors ajar, just the quiet chapel. She shook her head, blinking. She must be imagining things. She made her way back to her room, feeling both frightened and brave. She placed the Bible on her bedside table and lay down. The moonlight through the window made long shadows on the floor. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The room went dark for a moment, then came back on. Linda's breath caught. She looked toward the foot of her bed. In the pale glow of the ceiling light, she saw a shadow move. A tall, thin shape stood there, just beyond the circle of light from the lamp. Her heart froze. She lifted her crutches and pressed them against her chest. "Mommy," a soft voice said. Linda's eyes filled with tears. She opened her mouth, but no sound came. The shadow took a step forward, and the overhead light flickered again. Linda screamed. The nurse burst into the room, followed by Detective Allen. They saw the empty hallway outside, but the bed was empty, and Linda was gone. Detective Allen called out her name. The nurse checked the door. It was locked from the outside. They searched the hall, but Linda had vanished. The pale moonlight shone through the window on the empty bed, her crutches on the floor, and the Bible open to Psalm 23. No one saw Linda Mason again. Only the pale man's whisper lingered in the room. "You can't leave yet."